Welcome back to Open Up. I'm Tina Miller.
And I'm Don Clark.
Yes, Don. And Don's been telling you about a young man who was a teenage alcoholic.
Before we get to that, let's go to some billboards we have to show you.
Yes.
We're very grateful for those who stand with us in this show.
Yes.
First of all, Legal Shield, and this is Legal Shield Associates. Can't read it. I'm over the flowers here.
LegalShieldAssociates.com/open up.
But I'll tell you what, this is Daniel Webb, and this is all kinds from the most trivial matter in the law to the most traumatic. This can provide you with help. You don't have to worry about the hours. It's a very low monthly fee, a number of rates. And boy, things like identity theft, they are there before, during, and after to restore you to what you need to be. Dan Webb.
And another wonderful person who helps us out is my husband, Robert Miller. Kern Construction and Electric Incorporated. And Robert can be reached at 661-322-5554. That's 322-5554.
Yeah, we're always interested in health, and nobody better to train you than Bill Robison, Bakersfield's #1 personal trainer 2 years in a row, at his site at bakersfit.com and his workout arena. So
yes,
if you're interested in really buffing up, he's the guy to see.
Thanks, Bill. Okay.
All right. For a period of my life, I had the privilege of working at the Bakersfield Rescue Mission, and I got to see all kinds of people come and go and come again sometimes. And one of those guys that came through that I really took an interest in, he just seemed to have a very special aura about him, was a young man from San Diego. And the more I learned about his story, the more interesting it became. And boy, he just grabbed hold of what was offered at the mission. He just took full advantage of that program and just began to take off like a rocket in his life. And we've got him here his name is, I always say, it's John Kryrovruka. That's pretty close, but we just call him John K. What he says is the last 10 letters of his name are silent. So, John,
yes.
So glad you're here.
Welcome to Open Up.
Thanks for having me. It's great.
John, just take us back to, you were just a strapling back at 13, 14 years old, and so start us out on this journey that you were on.
Okay, well, as you said in your previously, you said at 13, and that's when I had my first taste of alcohol, and I kind of liked it. 13, I'm a junior higher. That's crazy. And then throughout high school, I started to drink more and more. On weekends, go to parties and things like that, and no real accountability in that at all. My mom, great mother. I love my mom, but she never really, told me the dangers of alcohol or anything like that. But I went and I had fun, and everything I did. And once I graduated high school, I got into college. Pretty much everything I did involved alcohol at that point. It started in high school, but then in college, it really became something that pretty much was a part of everything I did.
It's just an everyday.
It's kind of like wherever you go. It eventually becomes wherever you go and whatever you do. What kind of alcohol are we getting, and how much are we going to drink, and who's coming? Right? It's like I go to lunch, we have alcohol. Go to dinner, alcohol. Go to concerts, alcohol. Wherever you go, it's one of those. Wow. Alcohol is the primary, source of function and fun, really. And then, and then it got to the point where every hour of the day became, I have to drink. So that's obviously that's alcoholism, right? When it gets to the point, I believe that alcoholism really begins with I have to have alcohol wherever I go, whatever I do. If I'm not saying that if you have a beer or a glass of wine, you're an alcoholic. Don't get me wrong. What I am saying, though, is that when alcohol starts to become a part of everything that you do, and you start to need it to not only function but to kind of get through, alcohol became a need for me to physically function. It got to the dangerous level. I believe they call that organic depression. They may have a new term for it, but physically, when I did not have alcohol, I would withdraw and I would shake, and I would, it was really scary. And it gets to the point where you can't physically function. It goes from the can't mentally function to the can't physically function stage, and then you withdraw, and you can actually die from withdrawals. It's crazy. It
John,
really
at the
is.
peak of this, how much alcohol were you consuming a day, do you think?
At my peak, probably, at least a fifth of vodka, sometimes more a day. A fifth is those bottles that you see, like the 750 milliliters. Sometimes 2 of those a day.
2 a day.
As a teenager.
No, well, as
at
a young adult,
Okay.
slash, probably from the age of like 25 to about 30-ish, right around there.
You always look 16, John. How old?
Yes.
Tell our viewers how old you are now.
I am 43.
Okay.
No way.
From what I put my body through in my younger days,
It's a miracle.
This is our Michael J. Fox here. I mean, you always look young.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
So, but you had a career and jobs going along with this whole journey. Tell us about that path that you were on.
Doing radio was easy as someone who drank a lot, because I was in settings where there was alcohol there, restaurants, clubs, things like that. I would do live broadcasts from clubs and things. So drinking was really easy. Drinking on the air was easy because I did overnights a lot. And I did a weekend show Saturday nights, so it wasn't like there's a bunch of people running around the office and they could see. So I would drink while I wouldn't get fall down drunk, but I would drink steadily and just to kind of take the edge off, as people would say. But for me, it was just to feel better, and so I got used to it, and I got used to that feeling, and most of the other DJs drank. And so I did too, and
So it was just
kind
normal.
of functioned through it. I worked in restaurants, and alcohol was available and easy, and most people drank.
What did you do in restaurants?
I was a food server and a bartender.
Oh.
One for you, one for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things. But
Did you ever have to seek medical help? Or?
Actually, when I did. I had seizures from withdrawals a couple times where it landed me in the hospital. Yes. Very scary. All like mild heart attacks, those kind of things.
But not enough to scare you off.
Not enough to scare me off. Not enough. You're right. That's how dangerous it is. I mean, you think you almost lose your life, and you think that would be enough, and it just isn't.
Did family and friends recognize anything, any difference? Or?
My sister did, and she when I was in Ridgecrest for about a year doing radio there, and I actually lost my job because of alcohol there, and every job I've ever lost is because of alcohol, and that was the last one. That was the last time. I was actually living with my sister in Ridgecrest when I moved from San Diego because I was medically I was on the verge of death. And then my sister took me in. I got a job there in radio, and then it got to the point where several circumstances came about to where I knew that I needed help. Final help.
Yes.
And I didn't understand what that was at the time.
Right.
But now I know what that was, and my sister, I called my sister, said, I need help, and she goes, "Where am I taking you?" And so we.
If I recall, there was one intervention where one of your bosses said you were slurring on the air, and he said, "John, you're fired. Go get help."
Pretty much, yes. I one morning I drank a little bit too much, and and then I was slurring, and usually it never came to that, because I was highly functional, and I hid it very well until that day, and then there was actually a listener. His name's Bob, and Bob is just kind of this angel, and he would show up at events, and he had gone through the rescue mission program. And he would show up at events, and we would hang out together, and we would talk about music and other things like that. And then one morning, I called the radio station. This was after I got fired, and I don't understand why I called the radio station. I just did. And the on-air personality at the time, she said, "You have a message from Bob." I said, "Well, what's the message?" "No message, just a phone number." And so I go, okay, well, what's the phone number? And she gave it to me, and I called the number. It was the rescue mission in Bakersfield. And this is, Ridgecrest, and I go, why is this happening? And so I called the number, and they said, oh yeah, hey, come on down, and we'll get you set up. I'm like, for what? I didn't understand. I didn't understand what it was. And so I called my sister. I go, I have to go to Bakersfield, and I have to go to the rescue mission. Can you take me? And she goes, are you ready to go? I go, yeah. She goes, okay, let's go. So we went. And then, found the Lord there. And
well, we'll take that part of the story when we come back.
Okay.
And what's very interesting is that John is just a prime example of, people think of a rescue mission as old grizzled guys, with drool coming down their shirts and sitting on the corner. But really, the average age of the person in the rescue mission now is down in the teens and the 20s. That's the level of people that are coming to the rescue mission for help.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that and the turnaround that happened in John's life. We'll be right back.